Your charm meter looks like this. It goes up when you're hot and goes down when you're not. Hold it! Before getting started, this video is a compilation of 4 guides I made earlier this year to help you become more charming. And according to YouTube, over 98% of you aren't subscribed to my channel. So if you enjoy my videos, leave a like and subscribe to show your support. Now back to the show. This is your looks, fitness, fashion, voice, posture, and confidence, to name a few variables. By increasing the stat, you have an easier time getting the romantic relationship achievement, more work success, and other bonuses that get included with the attractiveness buff. So let's discuss an easy way to get started on improving this crucial social stat. First things first, during character creation, there's RNG based on the appearance of both your character's parents. This means our appearance will be some kind of amalgam of theirs. This means that certain bodily features cannot be changed outside of paying for the cosmetic surgery DLC, which can be pricey. So the things that are unlikely to change once a player character reaches maturity are face, height, and voice. So this may impose a soft limit to how high you can increase your charm stat. However, it's not the end of the world, as there are 4 components available to you that can improve this stat significantly, starting with your hygiene. Taking care of your hygiene and general grooming are key components of your charm. You can separate good hygiene as top, middle, and bottom. Top is your hair and face. Assuming your player character has hair on their head, find a cut that fits your face. There are strategy guides on this already, but an advanced strat is to ask other players who aren't your same gender. For example, if you're a man, ask a woman to better understand what is more attractive to them. Knowing the difference of girl pretty versus boy pretty is important for the dating meta. Aside from a good cut, make sure that your do is maintained. Walking out with bad head is less work, but will hurt your charm. This also means to wash it on a near daily basis for most players. Keep in mind certain hair types and styles need to be washed at less frequent intervals, like those with dreadlocks. There are also different types of shampoo and conditioner items that one can use for your hair. Although we won't go too in depth in this guide, just keep in mind an all-in-one item should definitely not be used in these cases. As for your face, depending on your RNG, you may have hair that grows in a variety of areas, from the middle of your eyebrows, upper lip, chin, and so on. Grooming of facial hair is highly socially dependent, so you may be in places that like certain combinations of facial hair regardless of gender, so keep that in mind. If you decide to remove facial hair, your options are usually a razor, tweezers, threading, or waxing. As for any of these activities, the best advice is to do so with caution, as you could inflict the bleeding debuff if you're not careful. Next for face, we have skincare. Face skin types vary from dry, oily, normal, combination, or sensitive. Knowing your skin type is important, and maintaining some type of routine is recommended. If you're prone to the acne debuff, you're already aware of this. But even if you don't have a routine, it's good to consider. Something basic like applying sunscreen to your face is shown to better your skin's appearance and works as armor against UV elemental damage from the sun. Lastly, we have dental care. Taking care of your mouth is the final piece of this puzzle. Bare minimum, player characters should floss, wash, and brush their teeth twice a day. Once when waking up and once before bed. Consumable items can get stuck in a player's mouth and can cause bacteria to grow inside, which can lead to a variety of debuffs, especially the dreaded bad breath, or halitosis. Continuing down, we have the middle section, which involves your torso, arms, and hands. The same thing applies here for grooming as it does with your face. There may be different expectations and social pressures to shave certain areas of the body, like the armpits. This guide isn't going to say whether those expectations are good or bad, but if you're wanting to increase overall appeal and charm, following those expectations in your given environment will generally be more efficient. Or optionally, going to a location that fits with your desired social expectations. That being said, regardless of where you go, you should be showering and cleaning your body frequently. When showering, the process is wash, lather, rinse, and repeat. You may see a variety of different types of soap items on sale, but you don't need anything particularly high in price. Moving along, you should work to give each part of your body attention in this process, especially places more prone to sweating. Some characters have higher levels of sweat or work in more labor-intensive jobs that will cause their bodies to be dirtier than the average player character. So this will increase the frequency of their shower schedule and need for more intense cleaning. Additionally, there are other factors such as what consumable items you ingest that can have effect on your general levels of body odor. Deodorant or some fragrances like perfume or cologne are useful items to mitigate part of body odor, but they are not substitutions for showering. Going on to the hands, we have another decision for nail length. As I'm sure you expected, this is also based on social standards and even certain skill sets. Women, for instance, have an easier time displaying a variety of lengths and styles for their nails, while men are normally expected to have them shorter, and typically without color. This is up to your discretion with the same caveat stated earlier. If you want general charm appeal, then you should follow the social standard, and if you don't want to, this will make it more difficult to do so, but not necessarily impossible. Also, wash your hands with soap and water after the urination quicktime event, please. Bottom is your sexual organs, legs, and feet. These all have most of the same statements as earlier. Shaving hair in these areas depends on your gender and environment, and they should be cleaned thoroughly just like the rest of the body. Even if you think you may be thorough, you should aim to slightly over clean just in case. That's mainly directed at my fellow male characters. Additionally, most characters know to clean up after defecating, but not everyone wipes after urinating, which is another good strat. One last tidbit of hygiene is of regular maintenance. If there is something that looks weird on your player model, like a bump or blemish, or you smell or feel something unusual, this may mean that there is something in the steps earlier that are not being followed. And if they are, consulting someone of the doctor class is a good idea if you're still concerned. Next, we're going to talk about your fitness. This strategy guide will discuss the most basic aspects of the fitness skill tree, and I'll leave some walkthroughs in the description below, which will include exercise guides and articles for more information. You can think of your fitness as 4 different substats: your stamina, your stretchiness, your stability, and your strength. You could probably add a few more components, but I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. And of course, these fitness stats will vary widely from player to player, depending on character stats such as sex, age, and physical activity levels. So keep that in mind as we continue. First up is stamina. Now I want to clarify that I'm using stamina instead of the word endurance. The two are often used to mean the same thing in global chat, so some players may not agree with my decision to do that. But the difference is in terms of intensity and duration, how much versus how long, which is my friend's current gamer tag. Stamina is seen as 2 parts: the mental focus to do a task, and the physical ability to use the full capacity of energy from one's own muscles. Endurance, in contrast, is about bringing oxygen into the body to use during a given activity for a prolonged period of time. It's often talked about with your VO2 max stat, so think of someone who can run for miles without being winded by the end. With all that being said, how do you grind for more stamina? The basic exercises to increase stamina fall under the aerobic or cardio exercise category. This includes walking, jogging, running, hiking, bicycling, swimming, jump rope, dancing, stair climbing, and rowing. And how often should I XP grind for stamina? Per week, the average human player, sorry to the rest of the Animalia faction, should have at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity, or 75 minutes of higher intensity physical activity, or an activity of equivalent level, which we'll see more of further in the video. The benefits of grinding for stamina are improved heart function, improved lung function, improved oxygen supply, improved circulation, decreased high blood pressure, decreased inflammation, and improved mood and energy. Here are a few more tips before we move on. Look straight ahead when running, especially if you're in a public server. Being outside. Be aware of your surroundings and equip appropriate gear. And if you would like to listen to music, make sure it's an appropriate volume to not disturb other players. Nobody likes people who can't mute their mic, so the same applies here. Note that as we get into the other categories, there will be overlap with certain exercises. So you could see, for example, exercises that build strength and balance, etc., etc. Next is stretchiness, sometimes referred to as flexibility, and sometimes as suppleness. This is the body's ability to elongate its muscles, and has to do with your range of motion. So think of someone doing yoga poses and contorting themselves with ease. The basic exercises to increase stretchiness fall into 2 categories: dynamic stretches, which are any that have some type of repetitive motion, like marching in place, side stretches, or touching your toes, and static stretches, which are typically holding a position for up to a minute at a time, such as in yoga exercises like the cobra, threading the needle, malasana, downward facing dog, or the hip thrust, which is my other friend's gamer tag. And how often should I XP grind for stretchiness? Stretching every day is the best, but at least 3 to 4 times out of the week should be the minimum. Surprisingly, studies show that stretching before a workout shows little difference in terms of overall soreness or lessening injury. And there's some evidence that when you stretch a muscle that hasn't been warmed up, you could injure yourself. So an alternative is a light 5 to 10 minute walk that gradually gets faster than to stretch after that. The benefits of grinding for stretching are helping your joints move through their full range of motion, increasing muscle blood flow, enabling your muscles to work most effectively, and improving your ability to do daily activities. Here are a few more tips. Stretching should cause mild tension and not intense pain, so you shouldn't lose HP. Just listen to your body and don't overwhelm it. Also, stretches should be given the same attention as other exercises, so don't treat them as just a warm-up match. Pay close attention that your form stays consistent. Next is stability, more often called balance. This is the ability to hold your body's weight and focuses on the back, abdomen, and legs. So think if someone is easily able to balance themselves on one part of their body. The basic exercises to increase stability typically include Tai Chi, standing on one foot, standing knee lifts, and walking in a line from heel to toe. And how often should I grind for balance? Like stretching, balance exercises are good to do every day, but if you're unable to, 3 days out of the week is a good minimum. The benefits of grinding for stability are improving posture, faster recovery after injury, and fall prevention. One last tip for balance is, if you're worried about falling, use something to support yourself like a bar or chair to hold on to, or have someone assist during the exercise. Lastly is strength. This is the body's ability to exert power and do physically demanding activities. This is commonly what people think of when it comes to improving their fitness. We go gym and all that. The basic exercises to increase strength fall under the anaerobic exercise category. However, there are 2 major paths to pursue strength: The first is calisthenics, or bodyweight training, and the second is weightlifting or resistance training, and they have different benefits. Calisthenics is convenient as it requires little to no equipment, can be done at home if you're unable to go to the gym, adaptable for noobs or pro athletes, and that it provides functional strength. This is an important difference, as the exercises in calisthenics are focused on using more muscles and joints that mimic motions done during everyday gameplay. Bodyweight exercises include pull-ups, squats, dips, hinges, rows, and push-ups. Weightlifting is beneficial in its own right and has some perks such as being able to isolate specific muscle groups like your biceps, being able to increase external weight, which makes leveling up easier to track, having a variety of exercise equipment, meaning many types of routines are possible, and that it is normally done in a public space such as a gym. Many people are on their own fitness journeys, and being around them works as a good motivator, and even teacher if you need a tutorial on how any of the equipment works. Weightlifting exercises can use free weights like barbells or dumbbells, medicine balls, weight machines, or suspension equipment. Now, both of these will make you stronger as their focus is progressive overload. Basically, by doing either of these types, they should gradually get more difficult as your body gets used to doing certain motions and carrying a given amount of weight. So as you level up, you can tackle more challenging movements, more reps, and increased weight. So how often should I grind for strength? This will vary depending on what kind of workout routine you're doing. Some may have you with at least one rest day between sets, and others may have you doing it multiple days in a row, which is my current gamer tag. A good rule of thumb should be working out at least twice a week with a solid calisthenics or weightlifting routine, and gradually increasing for more results. The benefits of strength exercises are improved muscle strength and tone, maintaining flexibility and balance, weight management and increased muscle to fat ratio, improved sleep and avoidance of insomnia, and increased self-esteem. And for some last tips, record yourself during sets. This may feel uncomfortable, but knowing what your form looks like is important, especially if you're lifting heavier weight. And don't worry, if you're doing this at a gym, as long as there's no rule against it, no one is going to worry about you doing this. And as a general piece of advice, fitness in large part is about what you're consuming. I made a video talking about macros already, but 2 supplements to add to that are protein powder and creatine. Protein powder is good to get more protein into your diet, which helps build muscle mass, and creatine powder is shown to improve overall physical performance, alongside some other notable buffs. It's recommended to take 3 to 5 grams of creatine per in-game day, and you should be getting plenty of water and sleep as well. Now that we've talked about these exercises, how do I get started? Realistically, if you've never exercised consistently, or if you want to resume exercising, it's all about taking your time. It's better to start slow and consistent than to try to overdo it and potentially hurt yourself in the process. Something to bear in mind is if you miss a day of exercise, it's not the end of the world. For any type of leveling, we're looking for positive correlation. Don't be hard on yourself because that will only make you feel worse about not doing it. But that doesn't mean it'll be easy, but it will be worth it. And as a disclaimer, if you're a player character who suffers from a chronic status ailment, you should consult someone of the doctor class before participating in any strenuous physical activity. This channel is not medical advice and should not be taken as such. Lastly, you may still wonder what exactly being in good physical health has to do with charm, but it says a lot about you that your face may not. Someone who is physically attractive has qualities that they've inherited that meet the social standard, and they probably do enough upkeep, like good hygiene, to maintain their appearance. But what being fit shows is that you are someone who is disciplined, consistent, and that you care about keeping your body healthy and active. Studies even show that physical fitness has more of an effect on your dating odds for men compared to a variable like height. Now, of course, this may look different for different players and for those with different goals. If you don't want to be jacked, you don't have to be. If you have a little more body fat, that's fine. You can still be in better health, and that doesn't mean you have to entirely dedicate your life to exercise. So unlike the hygiene video, physical activity varies more between people and is something that you can work to improve on that not everyone might be doing. A study conducted by the National Center for Health Statistics concluded the following. In 2020, 24.2% of adults aged 18 and over met the 2018 physical activity guidelines for Americans for both aerobic and muscle strengthening activities. The percentage of adults meeting the guidelines was higher among men than women overall, and for each category of age, race, and Hispanic origin, and family income. Next, we're going to talk about your fashion. Good fashion is a combination of 4 variables: your shape, your highlight, your backdrop, and your mark. First is your shape. This is comprised of the fit of your clothes and your silhouette. Basically, the clothes you have should fit on your character model, and they let you change your hurtbox. This means that if you see someone wearing an outfit, you usually can't exactly duplicate it one-to-one, even if you have the exact same item, because your character models vary. So here are some visuals to think about it a little better. Here we have a solid white look from head to toe: white shirt, white pants, and white shoes. And each of these pieces of clothing are made from the same type of material, so they all blend in with one another. The fit of the clothing works to add or remove emphasis. If something is tighter on a part of your body, it creates a point of focus. And if it's looser, it does the opposite. Focal points are important to identify and see which parts of your body you want to accentuate. If you want to show off your chest, you may want something to fit tighter in that area. Or if you want to hide the size of your waist, you need something baggier to blur it. You may not know if there's anything you want to emphasize at the moment, and that's fine. When choosing the shape of your clothes, a good choice is a neutral fitting garment. Something that doesn't fit too tight anywhere in particular, but is also not form-fitting. We don't need to see every single one of your polygons. Something to consider is that, depending on where you shop, you may not find clothing that fits exactly how you want it. A good step is to take your measurements, so that way you know what your exact size is. You can also learn the sewing skill and adjust your clothing yourself, or hire someone of the tailor class to do that for you. Belts can also be a sound investment. Alongside fit, we have silhouette. This is the outline the clothing can make on your body. So if we go back to our example, when I remove the lines dividing which garments are where, you see our hurt box is very simple. If we were to increase the size of the clothing, we can now notice how proportion affects your focal points. Let's make the jeans baggier and wider on the bottom, and raise them higher. If we go back to the silhouette, we can see this changes what we are focusing on. In proportion to the rest of the fit, the jeans become more important to the look. It's still the same material and color, but we've altered the rhythm of the garment. However, you more style-savvy players may have already caught that this look is incomplete, because now the normal fitting shirt is actually too baggy compared to the pants. So by changing the top into something more snug, we create a slimming effect for your torso. Different silhouettes can evoke a range of feelings. So some people may prefer something more rigid and defined, while others may enjoy something flowy and wispy. We could do the same tactic with our shirt and shoes to create other effects. A bigger shirt or jacket makes you look top heavy, so the focal point is high and your legs look smaller. Shape also has to do with where the skin is showing under the material. Think of this as the negative shape. We can bring focus to points of the body that are not covered. So if we wear a shirt without sleeves, our arms now stick out as being more prominent. Or if you wear a crop top, your stomach is now the point of focus. If you've never shown any type of skin in public, this might be uncomfortable to attempt, and is luckily not a requirement of your outfits, but a tool to utilize. Speaking of tools, an important one to incorporate is the use of layering. This is the process of putting multiple pieces of clothing above one another. So by creating layers, you can separate your outfit into tiers of the outer and inner wear. It's important to adjust how much of the inner clothing you're showing. If you aren't paying attention, you may end up covering up a piece of your outfit that was supposed to be visible. Proper layering can elevate your look by giving it dimension, without the usage of texture or color. In short, the shape of the clothing you wear determines what people look at and the rhythm of your clothing. In general, if you wear things that fit on your body appropriately, you're heading in the right direction. Second is your highlight. This is comprised by the color and contrast of your outfit. Here are some basic color terms. Value. This is how light or dark the color is, or how close it is to black or white. Hue. This is the color itself, like red, blue, or green. Saturation. This is the intensity of the color. And temperature, which is how cool or warm the color is. Examples of warm colors can be red, orange, and yellow, and cool colors can be blue, purple, and green. Let's go back to our example. If we only focus on color, we notice that what we have is perfectly uniform. However, because of this, it has no focal point color-wise. But the moment I change the shirt's hue, your eyes are drawn to it, because now it's contrasting. So does that mean more color is better? Let's give it a shot. So if we color all the parts of the outfit with different hues, it's hard to tell where to look. We have the same problem as before. There's no focal point, so we have to play around with different values and saturations to create harmony. Whichever color has higher dominance sticks out more. So for example, if most of your colors are dark blue or navy, the saturated sky blue shirt pops. But if you want to examine this further, the look of colors on the body is going to be dependent on not just what shades you're choosing, but your own complexion as well. Your first guess may be based off of the color of your skin, but it's actually based on your undertones, which has to do with temperature. Luckily, there are guides to find what colors can work well for you. However, these tests are not the final authority when it comes to picking what colors to wear. If you want to wear a bright pink shirt, there's not a rule saying you can't. But again, it's good to follow a guide if you're unsure, and then as you begin to develop your style, you can experiment further past your comfort zone. And if you want to play it even safer than that, going with purely neutral colors could be something to try. These colors can be white, black, gray, peach, or brown. These focus more on value and saturation and not much on hue or temperature, so they can look fine on most people. But note that highlight is not just about color. If your clothing has patterns on it, that creates contrast. So stripes in the whole body can look strange, but when it's in one area, it brings the focus there. This is also why you may want to refrain from wearing graphic tees. Unless you know how to style around it, it becomes the most visually interesting part of your outfit. And it relies solely on the idea of somebody recognizing the reference on your shirt, or that they care about whatever brand name or logo is on there. I'm sure we've all seen the Zelda shirt cargo shorts combo. It's not that those pieces of clothing are inherently unfashionable, but if you don't understand any fundamentals, you're going to be confused as to why people say not to wear them. Our goal with highlight is to give you options that work well together and are interchangeable. Combining shape and highlight we see they overlap with ideas of emphasis. For instance, if you have clothing in a flowy shape on your arms, you may want to refrain from having a highlight that makes it too busy in the center. Again, the idea is that you want to know where people are going to be looking at. So in short, highlight determines the energy of the outfit, not only in where we're looking, but what colors we're displaying, and how that affects the mood of the wearer and the viewer. Third is your backdrop. This is comprised by the function and texture of your outfit. In some ways, this is probably the most downplayed piece of the puzzle. This has to do with your outfit's usage and how it works in your given environment. We're mostly talking about clothes in terms of customization preferences, but this also highlights its in-game use as well. So if you're going to the gym, there's attire for that. If you're going on a date, there's another set of attire, and so on. The level of appropriate dress will vary. If you're not sure an outfit will work, ask yourself, is this appropriate for your body, i.e. a good shape and highlight? Is this appropriate for the weather, i.e. thin clothes in the heat or thick clothes in the cold? Or is this appropriate for the event, i.e. suit/dress for formal or swimwear for the beach? Backdrop includes event details such as lighting, proximity to other people, or the color of your surroundings. This isn't about matching colors with the venue you're in, but it's about how the outfits of other people can change the look of yours. If everyone is dressed casual and you're in a full suit, you're gonna stick out, and probably not in the way you're intending. But in general, when you're out in public, attire can range drastically from loungewear to professional. The key is intentionality with your outfits. If you don't put much thought into your look, you're leaving RNG to determine what will be the best parts. If you have good hair, that'll probably be what people compliment. But if you put a little effort on how you dress, that can make a significant difference. If you don't believe me, try equipping something else to places you've already been. You may notice that the experience is different. The issue with understanding backdrop is that many people dress for comfort over most other things. And there is some merit to doing that. Usually it doesn't matter what you wear when you're at home doing laundry, but if you're going out, it's important to show your self-care, especially if you want more respect and success. This is not because you need the validation of other people to be happy, but it's a part of taking care of yourself and showing that externally. Some people think that appearances shouldn't matter, but the reality is that appearances do have an effect in our daily lives. So we may as well dress ourselves in a way that is well thought out. This has benefits to ourselves psychologically, and we have evidence to show that how you dress really makes a substantial change in how you view yourself. Alongside functionality is the clothing's texture, from cotton, silk, linen, etc. And it's a crucial piece to make yourself look more visually interesting. Looking at our example, if I change the texture of the pants, they draw your attention. As has been the rule, too much texture can have an outfit looking a little silly, and not enough will make you appear flat. When trying new textures, it's important that you explore according to the weather and maneuverability. Not being able to do basic movement actions in your clothes sort of defeats their purpose. So if you can't get most of the motion of your arms or legs, that could be a sign that your outfit is too restrictive. Or if you have trouble in dressing for the bathroom quick time event. When you begin to make more decisions on what to wear, these choices will start to become habit. You will naturally start to put more effort as you understand what fundamentals are. It's not about mimicking what you think looks good on others, but knowing what you want to wear and how that overlaps with what looks good on you, and how to dress according to your environment. Last is your mark. This is comprised of the accessories and personality of your outfit. This component is often overlooked as well, especially from fashion novices. It might seem strange to think that something as small as a necklace, a hat, or an earring could add that much. But this part is how you show off who you are. If you're gonna accessorize, make it something that sticks out as part of what you care about or believe. Maybe the watch you have is a gift from a relative, or maybe that necklace was made by your friend. Sure, if something looks cool, that's worth wearing. But if an accessory means something to you, that makes for an easy conversation topic if someone asks about it. As with every other category, a good rule is somewhere in the middle rather than none or too many accessories. However, displaying personality doesn't just have to do with trinkets or jewelry, but it encompasses all types of cosmetics, like tattoos, piercings, hair dye, and makeup. Now before you click off, this is not saying that you have to get any of those things, but they are extra tools at your disposal. Tattoos and piercings luckily have options if you're not entirely committed to the idea of getting either, i.e. fake tattoos or clip-on piercings. Hair dye has some as well, or you could alternatively get a wig, which can be a point of apprehension for some players. Makeup has a multitude of tutorials online and a lot of different skill trees within it. By itself, it's likely the strongest tool one can use to change their appearance temporarily. Now keep in mind, some players are very particular about their tastes, so if you have or use any of these cosmetics, they can be polarizing. For example, if you're more masculine, you may find some players don't prefer it if you dye your hair or paint your nails. Or if you're more feminine, some players may not prefer excessive piercings or tattoos. All of the videos in this mini-series are about focusing on overall appeal. If you want to use any of these things, give them a shot. But it wouldn't be wise to make a video discussing this and not be upfront about the effects certain highly specific fashion choices will have on your charm. Speaking of which, having different preferences is perfectly fine. If you prefer a lot of tattoos, if you prefer a small amount of makeup, or if you prefer dyed hair, those are all reasonable preferences. But the issue comes when you make a judgment about someone based on how they look. If someone has things that you don't find attractive, that's okay. You're not going to be attracted to everybody. But somebody who uses any of these cosmetics is not inherently a bad person. You may have encountered the notion that makeup is deceitful in some way, and it's more nuanced than that. At the most basic level, makeup can highlight and make features more prominent on the face and change the texture and complexion of the skin. And at the highest level, makeup can completely transform someone's face and make them look entirely like someone else. But it's a tool. The moment we ascribe this negativity to it, we forget that it all depends on the situation. The same applies for all these cosmetics. Before concluding, let's address the elephant in the room: price. It's no surprise that if you have a higher amount of the local currency of your current server, you can practically buy whatever type of clothing you would like. So you want to focus on affordable, interchangeable clothes to form the foundation of your wardrobe. You don't need to break the bank. In the description, there will be some wardrobe essentials tutorials that you can explore. The best approach will be to build off of what you already have in your inventory. There's really no need to completely start from scratch. It's better to add clothing in, and then as you solidify it, begin to remove things that you don't wear or that don't work with your current style. You'll be thankful you did this, and so will your wallet. So after all of that, how does this play into your charm? Since we're talking about appearances, to say that what you wear is important is an understatement. When you take in the time to put in the effort, it shows. And this is something that you can work to improve. It's the rule I've discussed this entire video. It's pretty much always better to put in some type of effort rather than none or too much. Finally, we're gonna talk about your confidence. Confidence is one's own summary judgment of everything about themselves. You can think of it as your stance, your hustle, your bonds, your mentality, and your ideology. Let's start with stance. This is your posture and expression. So what you look like and how you communicate to others. When you hear posture, you may be thinking that I mean the stereotypical stand up with your back straight, and I do think that has something to do with it. But I'm talking about your overall demeanor and body language. When first meeting someone, you automatically communicate information to them based on what your character model is doing. So depending on factors like sex and environment, this can lead them to assume different things about you. There's plenty of different rules online about what you should and shouldn't do, but it's important to note some of them can make broad generalizations about what exactly certain emotes mean. So for this category, we're gonna list 3 suggestions and not rules for solid body language. Number 1 is engage appropriately. This is all about not breaking taboo. Learn to get a feel of what is too little or too much gesturing. Don't spam your emote wheel. Don't lean in for a cheek kiss if it's your first time meeting someone and that's not the social norm. Think of something like making eye contact. You should try to do it, but don't stare. Specifically, try not to stare at other parts of the body that aren't the face. The occasional eye contact breakaway is good to relieve tension, and it builds connection that feels less intimidating. Staring is a surefire way to make someone nervous when you don't mean to. Which leads us into number 2, give and take. Much of what we do in communication is based on reciprocation. If you're in a playful environment, say something fun. Don't treat all social interactions like job interviews. You don't need a script prepared to talk to people either. There doesn't seem to be an update plan that gives pre-written dialogue prompts, unfortunately. Practice mirroring people's energy. If they're comfortable enough to crack a joke, try to make one back. Even if it's bad, it's about making sure both sides are involved. Number 3 is challenge nature. Fake it until you make it. It's no surprise that many people take their lack of high social stats as a fact and are stuck thinking they can't change. Truthfully, some people will do better at social interactions and do most, if not all of these suggestions without having to think about them. So if that doesn't sound like you, the first step to change is by accepting that you can improve. And know that you are going to have to work harder on getting more experience points in the social arena. By doing this, you can change your natural responses, and then you can interact without it feeling like you're thinking too much about what you're doing. That being said, here's a list of more specific tips that could work for you broken into each body part. Eyes. As said earlier, holding eye contact with someone is good for establishing a connection. And if you're in a large group, try to make occasional eye contact to whoever you're most interested in. Mouth. Refrain from holding a permanent grin and delay your smiling speed. When you're constantly smiling, it can look uncanny to those around you. Try to smile intentionally to who you're speaking to. This treats your smile as something that is gifted but not guaranteed, and try to match the intensity of your smile to the situation in person. So save this kind of face for when you're home. Torso. Try to hold a neutral position that looks comfortable but not rigid, so don't slouch when standing or sitting. However, to build more engagement, practice leaning in slightly when someone is speaking. This shows that you want to hear what they have to say. Hands. Practice speaking with your hands. Conversations that involve more of the body are visually intriguing and can demonstrate comfortability. This should be used with caution, but work to break the physical touch barrier. A slight touch can be a method to establish intimacy. So this could start with a simple brush of the hand or a hug. Arms and legs. Take up your given amount of space. This isn't saying to lounge or sprawl out while sitting down, but don't bundle yourself to fit into the space. If there's enough room around you, there's no need to be rigid and have your arms and legs attached to your sides like a toy. So because we're talking about communication, everything I just listed is involved with non-verbal communication. So let's discuss the other three in detail. Next is verbal communication. This is about how you speak. But how do you speak well? There are some different schools of thought over what makes good verbal communication. We're adding in 3 more ideas, what I'll be calling the ACE method: authentic, clear, and exciting. Authenticity starts with being honest with your speaking partner. Speak like you're the polished version of yourself. Leave the troubles at the door and be present. Occasional lies in the name of joking around can be fine, but the majority of what you talk about that has to do with yourself shouldn't be made up, even if it makes you sound more interesting. Building a connection based off of false information is a guaranteed way to doom a relationship, or by lying about your league or Valo rank. Clear communication is about saying as much as you need to say. Try to be mindful of how much of the conversational space you occupy. This means when you're making a point, try not to be too vague or blunt. And try not to drag your speech on to the point your partner zones out or they can't find a way to join back into the conversation. Be mindful that taking everything too literally can lead to some issues. The truth is that many people don't say what they mean, so you'll sometimes have to read between the lines. Sorry to everyone, myself included, with the neurodivergent trait. Exciting communication is about making the conversation engaging. Give your partner more details to work with. If you're asked, "What do you do?" or "Where are you from?" try to be more specific. Give them more information that can change the direction of the conversation. This way, even if someone asks you the same question, you can find yourself talking about different subjects based on which details they resonate with. Mix it up. Be capable of giving fun answers and genuine ones. The variety keeps you from recycling the same tired voice lines, and it stops your conversations from getting stale. On to the next piece, listening. For this one, the most crucial skill is to practice actively listening to your partner. This can be done by using positive body language from earlier, so try nodding when someone is speaking or try leaning in and relaxing your body. While the game of conversation goes back and forth, it's about both parties finding a place to speak. So them talking is not about you waiting for your turn to talk, butt in, or change the subject for no reason. Even if you have a shared interest, allow time in between to listen to what your partner has to say, and then build off of that. It's a collaborative effort. If you want to talk by yourself, consider a podcast rather than a conversation. If you're still worried that your partner won't know if you're really listening or if you feel like you may run out of things to say, you can try parroting. This is repeating their last few words in response. Though, make sure you don't do this every time. Keep things fresh. Depending on the environment, you may not be able to focus very well, so some locations with loud music or flashing lights may not be the best places to have deep conversations. So you may want to find a spot that's less active if you'd like to speak. The last part of communication is thinking. There's generally understood to be 2 systems of thinking. System 1 is automatic, intuitive, and fast. System 2 is methodical, conscious, and slow. We want to have conversations where you can bounce back from whichever one depending on the given context. If you feel like you talk too much or too fast, practice slowing down and giving more time between responses. And if you feel you don't speak enough or at all, then practice going with your gut instead of holding back to come up with a perfect reply. You may not accurately guess what it is the other person is thinking about the conversation, and really can only make guesses based off their body language and responses. A good strategy is to approach conversations in a mindful way. Don't come in with the expectation of receiving unrealistic key items from the encounter. You may get a number, or you may not. You may get an exciting interaction, or you may not. Don't set your expectations too high. When it's the first or second conversation with someone, you're still a stranger to them. If you approach friendly and not entitled, that will help you seem less pushy. Let's shift slightly. If you're trying to flirt with someone, much of it has to do with getting comfortable staying in sexual tension. The feeling of both participants not being fully aware of what the other is thinking can be exciting. Are they attracted to me? Are they gonna kiss me? These are the building blocks of attraction, alongside having shared emotional experiences. It's understandably frustrating not knowing whether someone is into you, but that's part of the ritual. It's not a rule, but it's important to get more practice flirting and entering that intimate space. So that means don't hold yourself back waiting for your soulmate to walk into the room to practice your flirting skills. Your social ability is a muscle, and like any muscle that goes unused, it will atrophy and lose stat points. Meeting new people is an opportunity for fresh interactions that possess more possibilities, so go for it. It's not like you're flirting with someone you see every day or is close to your inner circle. That's part of the reason people say not to date a coworker. It can get awkward if things go south. Though, I'm not saying don't date your coworkers, just learn to use your own discretion and make your own choices. I'm not your dad. I'm just the guy with the strategy guide. Before moving on, here are a few more pieces of communication advice. Ask questions. Be someone who thinks through what your partner is talking about and delve deeper. Surface level questions are okay, but you want to be able to bring out more from what someone is saying. It's almost like being a word detective. If they talk about something you don't know, ask them about it. Don't play cool and uninterested by saying nothing. Find interest in this other person and see where it leads you. Praise the positive and hold off on the negative. You may think that when you meet somebody that it's a good opportunity to deepen your affinity points by saying something emotionally vulnerable, but it may be better to hold off on the heavier subject matter for a later conversation. It's not that you avoid talking about it altogether, but after your first interaction, you might be less inclined to talk to someone if they seem to only talk about the skeletons in their closet. This also means that a good chatter doesn't make others feel bad for slip-ups in delivery or mispronunciation, so work to give others the benefit of the doubt. Finally, observe attention economy and social dynamics. When entering a social space, take a few minutes to digest the energy of the people and environment. You may be in a space where it's better to have higher energy, or be a little bit more thoughtful with what you say. You can start the night as a wallflower, but you need to choose which direction to bloom. If you talk to someone and they're making an effort to talk to you or be near you, that's a pretty good sign they enjoy your company so far. So learn to notice this and act accordingly. Second is hustle. This is your possessions and pastime. So what you have and what you can do. When hearing possessions, you may be inclined to think designer clothing, fancy suits, or a lot of DLC. And while these can be a component, let's think a bit broader. Possessions are either inherent, developed, or acquired qualities or quantities. So they can be things like physical characteristics, objects in your inventory, or personality traits that you possess. These can either be positive or negative depending on context. Inherent possessions are things gained without any type of work, like one's natural eye color or height. Basing judgment on these possessions tends to be shallow, as they're usually just RNG. Developed possessions are things that are cultivated through practice and work, like certain skills, achievements, or behavior. These can be created from certain inherent personality traits. For example, if you have high dedication, that could influence which skill trees or class selection you decide on, like becoming a doctor or a lawyer. Acquired possessions are circumstantial. This is where someone's family or socioeconomic or ecological factors affect what they have. So this could be coming from an affluent family or having access to region-locked quests. Basically, previously developed possessions from parents or role models create the conditions for acquired possessions. Pastimes are tangible or intangible. They're subtypes of developed and acquired possessions that have to do with how one spends their time, whether that's a hobby or a job, hence the name hustle. Depending on where you are, certain pastimes will be valued as more significant. These can also be methods to build towards other possessions. Tangible pastimes are sensory, can require certain accessories, and are focused externally. The ability to participate in certain activities can be seen as a status symbol. The more exclusive the activity, the higher its social value can be perceived to be. Not everyone gets to go jet skiing at a lakeside beach house on the weekends. While intangible pastimes can be abstract, require little to no materials, and are focused internally. Because there's a lower barrier for entry, these are generally not thought to be as highly valued. Everyone can go to the library and read a book. It's not particularly notable. That being said, most people have some kind of combination of both types they participate in. You may find some people really like it that you spend your time reading books, or that you go to the gym. Everyone has their own preferences. Any of these possessions or pastimes can affect one's own confidence. So if you have the right amount, or in the correct circumstances for them, you will have a value-based self-esteem. In contrast, a worth-based self-esteem is not based on traits, skills, or circumstances. For example, you could think that being a person means you deserve a certain level of respect, care, or happiness, regardless of any other quality that you possess. This key difference in self-esteem can cause issues. If you view your esteem based only on your external possessions, value-based, you can become unsatisfied with what you have and never feel that it's enough. And if you only view your esteem in terms of your internal value, worth-based, you risk losing the drive to improve yourself. A healthy combination of both types can keep us balanced in understanding that there are certain things we need and should expect to want. And there will always be things our societies will ask from us. Whether those things are actually right or wrong is not what we're talking about. It's that expectations will be made whether we agree with them or not. And our esteem should be multifaceted and not dependent on singular things or other player characters. Speaking of player characters, third is bonds. This is your reputation and attachments, so how others know you and what you're attached to. Your reputation is drastically shaped by appearance, actions, or location. These all change what your potential social links expect from you. Maybe it's the toned physique, maybe it's the elevated posture, or your choice of outfit. Reputation can be emphasized or changed by getting to know someone personally. That is through direct conversation or by word of mouth. Slight tangent, but while online dating has taken up the vast majority of how we meet and find dates, second place still belongs to meeting through friends. So even if the person you meet first is not a romantic match, you never know what your positive reputation can do for you. Some food for thought. When it comes to reputation, we may wear a mask to present ourselves accordingly to our environment. If we meet through a professional context, we'd probably not speak the same as we would at a party. And this isn't being fake per se, but it's a construct that we put on to better function in places where we have to mold ourselves to succeed or survive. This selling of our individuality is easy to see take place, and we can lose ourselves in doing this without any reflection, which is difficult for some individuals. Being told at home that you're worthless while at school you're the smartest kid in your class, or the reverse, can create pain inside yourself. Which one of those selves am I really? But let's put a pin in that for now. It's important that we recognize that changing our image can prove itself to be challenging. When you suddenly start equipping different clothing, working out, or go by a different username, that can be startling to other people who have a concept of who you are in their head. But there should be freedom to experiment with how you express yourself, and the ability to change your reputation. None of us truly stay the same over the course of a single playthrough. Resuming the topic of borrowing the image and reputation of a group. It can prove itself to be a tool that helps express what you may have not been able to do before. Of course, experiment with care. You may crash and burn and go through many images that might not feel right, so it's all gonna be based on vibes. There's a strong notion that you should accept whatever you have currently, and while there are many things in life that are out of your control, the way you choose to respond to the hand that life has dealt you is ultimately your decision to make. What I'm getting at is, trying to change is a worthwhile endeavor, whether that be working on your aesthetic, reputation, or negative behaviors that are stopping you from living the life you want. This goes hand in hand with attachments. The things, people, or concepts we have attachments towards determine what we value and the life we live. Whatever it is you're attached to, whether that's family, power, money, or God, becomes the basis that you judge your decisions by. From those key items you won't let go of, to the fully formed social bonds you possess. Our attachments inform us of who we are. It's no wonder why having others tell you things about yourself can make you believe them, evidence or not. It's crucial to know why we seek to form attachments, and that's because of our nature as social creatures. We want to be with others we care about. A key component to a good life is having others to share it with. Seek fulfillment and care for your body, but it's not about taking on life by yourself. Standard party structure and family groups we've established are part of the source code of our minds. It's not a sign of weakness to ask for assistance or be with others. It's strength, and it goes with the ability to give assistance back. Connecting these two ideas, we see that reputation really only matters around the people that we care about or have attachments towards. This is why you get into the state of people being apathetic about what they look like, what they say, or what they do in front of others who they don't have attachments to. And in some way, does this mean that their interactions can sometimes be more genuine? Maybe, but I don't see apathy as the true form of human interaction. It's interest and care. It shouldn't come at the cost of our self-awareness and growth. These three pillars so far have only really delved into the surface of what confidence seems to be. It's something noticeable, but let's analyze things a bit deeper. The fourth is mentality. This is your environment and identity. So where and when are you currently? And how and why does that affect your idea of self? We mentioned this earlier, but where you come from and when you are there can have effects on how you understand the world around you. We have to understand that if we believe the situations we're put in are real, they create real consequences for ourselves. We begin to form expectations because of how our environment and how others tell us to be and who that really makes us. If we're in unfit environments, we'll see ourselves lacking confidence. We'll be broken down by struggles and strife that don't create space for positive change. If you have no concept of your stance, the self-image, no matter what you look like or what you say, you'll never feel right in your own skin. If you have no concept of your hustle, the self-concept, no matter what you achieve or how worthy you feel, you may reach a point of stagnation that leaves you empty. If you have no concept of your bonds, the self-esteem, no matter who knows you or the attachments you've made, you'll feel separated from yourself. Loss of these ideas can lead to hypersensitivity, vulnerability, and maladaptive habits within the individual. And in extreme cases, psychological or psychiatric conditions could take place as well. This is why identity matters so much. Children have much less of an idea of who they are. They haven't built up the resistances to attacks on the self, even some adults lack this ability, or respond to the attacks in unhealthy ways. Maturity and emotional regulation is necessary for confidence, as it lets you review what is being said about you without it destroying the self in the process. That's why mentality is connected to self-awareness and acceptance. We need to trust in ourselves, in our skills, our fundamental worth, and expression to those we have attachments with. And this is done not by gaining things or through achievement, but by releasing the insecurities one has. Determining this difference starts by realizing that most of you at one time felt confident. That at one point you felt security and belonging. You were less concerned about being a better you, and could live as whoever you were. It wasn't until the moments of judgment or pain from others or your environment that this began to change, chipping away at the fabric of yourself. If you ever felt bad about performing poorly at a task or skill, that insecurity became part of you. If you were told, "Why can't you read this? Are you stupid? Why can't you figure this out? Why are you crying? You have nothing to cry about." The blood of these wounds became the paint that decorates the mask you wear, and eventually, that mask that hides your face starts to feel like the real thing. There's a sense of commitment to those scars that we gained over time, and this leads to tension within the self. It feels like you're betraying who you are if you change. But you didn't make the environment that molded you into who you are now. You had no decision in those situations. And it's easier to say the same if you think that you had control over those influences. But you need to decide if who you feel you are is who you want to be. It's unfortunate to say that it's easier to get positive feelings of the self from others, especially in people that don't have a vested interest in us. That's why compliments from fellow players resonate more than the millionth time your grandma compliments you. However, it wouldn't be right if we only talked about one extreme. Without adequate awareness of the concepts we discussed, we can have an overblown sense of grandiosity, entitlement, and superiority that can manifest itself into overconfidence. This can be thought of as a combination of three traits, those being overestimation, which is the belief that you are better than you are, overplacement, which is a belief that you are better than others, and overprecision, or the excess faith in that you know the truth. Over and underconfidence both lead us to a skewed understanding of our identity. So if too much or too little confidence can lead to issues, what steps can you take to find a middle ground? Let's explore acceptance and commitment therapy. ACT is a form of psychotherapy used for behavioral change through acceptance and mindfulness strategies. It proposes that what we fear is the root of our problems, that being fusion with your thoughts, or the lack of separation from one's thoughts, where they are taken as truth or that thinking becomes the same as taking an action. Evaluation of your experiences, or when you judge and label things like your feelings as being good or bad, or having a misevaluation of what is needed for a goal like lacking skills or resources. Avoidance of your experiences, or when you distract yourself from negative feelings such as with work or substances, or a general unwillingness to feel appropriate levels of discomfort, usually in pursuit of a goal. Reason giving for your behavior, or the beliefs and justifications put into place to stop you from doing, viewing, or changing your behavior. Essentially, any reason that acts as a barrier to change. The alternative of giving into fear is to act. Accept your thoughts and emotions, choose a valued direction, and take action. The 6 principles of ACT are cognitive diffusion. This is the process of separating yourself from your thoughts, feelings, and memories. Instead of accepting a negative thought as truth, notice that the pattern of thought is occurring. Acknowledging that it's happening means that you're separating yourself from it to observe it if it happens. This distance created can help us give these thoughts less control over us. Acceptance. This is allowing the unwanted experiences to occur without them arousing things in us. When we remove the struggle to fight them, they lose their power over us. Presence. This is being in the present moment, the here and now. Practicing mindfulness and limiting distractions helps us to focus inward from the noise of the world. This can be done with meditation, breath exercises, and journaling. By being present, we can heighten the awareness we have with thoughts and feelings as they enter our mind. This grounding centers us. Observation of self. This is witnessing the witnesser of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. That's the you that we're working to connect with. The unpleasant beliefs that get caught up in between blur the idea entirely. Instead of thinking that you're a failure or you're a good person, you just are. You're just you. All of that inflexibility of the self is an attachment made to this concept created over time. Your transcendental self is the context where you can observe your experiences and accept them as you need to. Values. These are the ideas that describe what is most important to oneself and explain how one wants to live now and the foreseeable future. Usually simple enough to be encapsulated by one word. Some examples include acceptance, adventure, courage, forgiveness, gratitude, patience, sexuality, or trust. Committed action. This is setting out goals according to your values and working towards them. Even if you falter in your action, you can fall back onto your values. You can commit to them despite any hurdles that will come your way. This gives us the appropriate flexibility in seeing how these changes may be difficult, but the pursuit forms the path for change. Fifth and final is ideology. This is your beliefs and perspective. So who you are and what is your meaning of life. There are plenty of paths to find self-meaning, whether that's through religion, success, or finding your own path. What is your responsibility to the world and those around you? What is it that gives you reason to push ahead? What makes you look forward to tomorrow? What you believe shapes the world you live in. If you fully ascribe yourself to the belief that nothing will get better and nothing will change, you'll find yourself stuck in a cycle that is self-fulfilling. You'll feel trapped and lost in trying to find the real thing you want to do. But as cliche as it sounds, it's not the destination, it's the journey. The reality is that you don't need a grand purpose to live your life. There are no main quest or side quest. It's all the same thing. You don't need large aspirations to work towards. You don't even necessarily need to know the words to what it is. You may find it before you even realize that you have. The meaning you derive from existence will come as you make your way through the world and make time to take care of what you have to do. Eat well, clean your body, do physical activity, dress up and have fun with other people. This game isn't solo player after all. These moments can feel meaningless or pointless, and that's a matter of perspective. It's you who gets to see how these pieces form into your unique experience of existence. And even with that, the fact that all of us get to have our own perspectives makes it so we connect with one another through this realm beyond meaning, beyond the game we're playing. The word Sonder describes the idea that everyone you see is their own main character in their own story, trying to make it to the best of their ability with their own deep, complex web of connections, hopes, and dreams. But you're also a background character in someone else's life. When we talk about the meaning of our lives, this is the core of what our confidence is born from. When you know who you are beyond all the doubts and inhibitions that have welded themselves to you, you are not just what you look like, what you can do, what you have, who you know, where and when you are from, or how or why you think the things that you do. You just are. That's all you need to be. That's the complete guide to charm. If you stayed until the end, thanks a ton. I'm really proud of the work I've put into these guides, and I'm excited to show the next big series I have planned. As always, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.